And we're back. This is the new SEC podcast. I'm Randall Ledet Jr. We got Hunter Zeisman. We're talking about week 5 college football. We're going to give you the best recap on the internet. Crazy week of football. This schedule delivered in every single conference, but the SEC had some of the best games of the day. Hunter, talk to me about this week and what it means for you and what it means for everybody.
8 SEC games, 4 of them better than the other 4. Best game of the week at night. For those of you if you've been listening for a while, you know I'm an Alabama alumni. I try not to be a homer on here, but it's hard not to be when you got a big win like that one. Alabama beating Georgia on the road, breaking the win streak that Georgia had. Randall, you were there at the game. I mean, energy was probably crazy, even though they didn't win.
Energy was on 10. I mean, from the minute that they had the fighter jet fly over the top for the national anthem to that first touchdown for Alabama, first touchdown for Georgia. I mean, it was quite a game. Came down to the wire and was definitely one of the best games of the day. I mean, there's a lot that was at stake, right? You know, Georgia at the time, I think, was the second highest ranked team in the conference when it came to the AP poll. But the actual game itself showed us a lot. Like, Ty Simpson's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, questionable call. Offense has some room to improve.
Yeah.
Takeaways from that game.
I think Alabama, you start to maybe feel like the week 1 Florida State game might have been not a fluke, but it wasn't the Alabama team that you're going to get going forward. Like this, now you saw it against Wisconsin and you saw it against ULM and you question if those are even good enough teams to take anything away from. But then you see it here. No points in the second half, but the defense played well improved, high motor all over the field. The offense, some cool plays that they were running, some varied play calling. I thought they looked good all around. So for Alabama, the takeaway is I now feel like confident in at least saying that they have a good shot to win the rest of the games on their schedule, depending on what happens with Oklahoma's quarterback situation going forward, how South Carolina improves. Now, Georgia takeaways, they're a good team, but when you look at their schedule ahead, like they're beatable. They're not big to me. They're not big dog, scary Georgia that the past years.
Yeah, and it could be the fact that it just seems like Alabama has Georgia's number or to this point. And when I watched that game, for me, it felt like Georgia's still trying to figure out how to get the passing game going, how to use these weapons. There was a big opportunity for them to take the lead in the game, to go up 28-24, and of course had that drop pass by the receiver. Some positives in the game was kind of the rushing attack. I know, Hunter, you kind of dissected some of the stats there, but we recognized Chauncey Bowens for our running back team of the week. They ultimately had that lead, or ultimately were kind of driving to take the lead, went up to 17-14, but a questionable 4th down call in the second half of the game where you had a chance to tie the game or to take the lead really changed the dynamic of the game. It has people talking about Kirby's coaching decision-making at that play.
You can play it 2 different ways. Like you can say, if he got it, good on him. If he didn't get it, now he's, you're criticized for the play. And some will say, hey, take your shot to win the game. Kind of like Wake Forest did against Georgia Tech this week in overtime. You got a chance to go for 2. In this one, I think he sees it. This is our path to winning. I think the cool, calm, collected approach in a game like this is to take your points and continue on to live to fight the next drive and trust in your defense. You're doing so well up to that point.
Right.
Defensively. I mean, even in the first half, like Alabama pieced some good drives together, but it relied on a lot of 3rd downs. So you had them in situations where you might inch away from stopping them in a couple different situations. So I would have kicked it.
Yeah, and in hindsight, you definitely look at the kick situation. I think rationally you say kick it, and I'm thinking for Georgia, they're looking at their offense to that point and saying we're in the red zone right now. This is our chance. I think if you're going to go for it, you use Josh McCray, you use Gunnar Stockton to kind of fall forward for that 1 yard. The kind of the lateral pitch to Cash Jones, who had 2 attempts that day. You're putting him out there with cold feet. He's always been a reliable guy, but it was an interesting call, and there's a lot of interesting moments where Georgia, for most opponents to this point, they make those plays. Like 3rd down comes on. I'm at the game, right? They're playing that dun, 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 dun. You know how it goes, right? They make those 3rd down stops more times than not, and they made them a lot of times in the second half, but it wasn't enough. And Kalen DeBoer, once again, he shows up in the big games from what it seems like, whether it was at Washington or now at Alabama. It's really what can he do going forward with College Game Day coming to Tuscaloosa next week, and they're playing Vanderbilt. So it was quite a game and a lot to be learned. When we look at the rest of the SEC, the other big game for the day, a little earlier at 3:30, LSU, Ole Miss. Ole Miss was favored, right, at home. Some people were talking a little bit of junk. Some dating things were talked about based upon post. But when we keep it on the field, what did you think about LSU's performance, and what did you think about Ole Miss's performance?
I told you before we got on here, I think that Ole Miss played better than 5 points better than LSU. I think Ole Miss played a great game. Trinidad Chambliss got to be your guy going forward. We both said it. You start him until you see otherwise. And in this game, I didn't see anything otherwise other than to keep this guy at the helm. He's great on the ground. He's making great reads. You have good weapons around him. I like Ole Miss going forward. I think that their spot now in the AP poll at 4, they flipped with LSU. So they're now 4, LSU now 13. I think it's warranted. They're a scary team, dangerous team. LSU, on the other hand, not dangerous at all offensively.
Yeah.
We were texting and I don't know if we're overreacting. I don't think we're not the only people who have said it, but at what point do you start to question the offense's leadership under Nussmeier? Do you question him and make a change, or do you flip something on the offense? They can't run the ball, so you're putting all your hope in the quarterback. Do you make a change there and hope that it sparks something?
Yeah, it definitely warrants the question, right? And it's something that we haven't really had to have that discussion fully yet. But to this point in this game, like Nuss never really felt like he could get his rhythm going. They were always kind of playing from behind. And to no fault of the LSU defense, like they were giving up points as well. We saw Caden Lee, of course, he had a turnover at one point, but then LSU couldn't capitalize on that turnover. And then the next drive, Ole Miss is able to score with Kawan Lacey, right, to go up 17-7. And that's all a byproduct of this LSU offense not being able to run and really not being able to get down the field despite having all these receivers.
They're just not able to put it together. And I think not being able to run is a big part of it for LSU.
Yeah.
Your
defense will 59 total rushing yards.
Yeah. And majority of their rushing yards came from like receivers and, one big play from one guy, here and there. They can't run consistently. Don't ask Brian Kelly about it. He'll get mad if you ask him anything about how this offense is underperforming. They've only scored more than one touchdown in one Power 4 game this year. I mean, they're putting their kicker out here to try to win games just by nickel and diming 3 points as the game goes on. You bring in all these great weapons and they're underutilized. I don't know if going to Michael Van Buren adds enough to this offense. Like, I don't know if that's the answer. He has some ball security issues, but he does offer maybe something different, or maybe it's a quick, not benching, but an opportunity to hype up Nussmeier to get back out there. You've seen that work before, so I'm not sure what to do here.
You've seen it work before, and I think what's different about the situation is a lot of loyalty to Garrett Nussmeier. And he had a good season last year, and he started for a year compared to Ole Miss, where it was like Austin Simmons is new, Trinidad Chambliss is new. Like, why have loyalty to Simmons if Chambliss is playing well? It's going to be tough to say, hey, let's put Nuss down and bring out Van Buren, but something's got to change. And it doesn't look like it's going to be the running game as long as Caden Durham's out, and the weapons are the weapons. But I mean, if you can't, pass the ball to them, what are you going to do? But it's a lot of it's go ahead. What are you going to say?
I would almost question if Nussmeier even really was that good to end last season. Like, I mean, we hyped him up as one of the best quarterbacks coming into this year, lost 3 straight last season with Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida, hardly putting up any points in those games too. It wasn't like he was high scoring in the win against Vanderbilt. Like, Oklahoma was good, but Oklahoma was beat up last year. Yeah. So I would even argue that maybe the expectations around Nussmeier maybe not to say they're not warranted, but it's got to be better than what else is putting on the field for having a good defense. Like, they're wasting a good defense by not being able to put anything together.
They're wasting a great defense, right? I mean, this defense did their best to try to lock down Ole Miss, and probably was the reason this game was kind of close. I mean, you saw that pick by PJ Woodard. That's a byproduct of the drop pass, but still, like, they made a play in the game, and the offense should be able to put up more than just a couple field goals throughout the game. And so, despite that last touchdown they had to get to the 19-24 point, and they missed the 2-point conversion. you expect more from a top team in the country. But I can't say I'm surprised. I picked Ole Miss in my college football pick'em. I picked Ole Miss on our preview. Like, we've been watching LSU football, like it hasn't looked that impressive like since the Clemson game, and we know Clemson's fraudulent now. So it's really more like, what do you do from here? Ole Miss thoughts. Kwan Lacey's cold. I mean, the catches by, it was DeQuan, right? I mean, that one-handed catch was incredible. Like, Chambliss looks good. This defense is bend, don't break, and this LSU offense wasn't really that good to give the defense having something to do. But, I mean, whether it's Caden Lee or Harrison Wallace or Kwan Lacey, like, Kwan Lacey scored in all 5 games this year, touchdowns-wise. Like, they're good. They're scary, and I think that they have a good shot to, continue on the schedule looking good.
Yeah. And their schedule when they travel to Georgia, is Georgia going to be able to stop them? They play Oklahoma. That could be the return John Mateer game. We'll see what happens with Ole Miss as they go forward. This was a good game. It was just an important game for the SEC standings, important game going forward. If we want to talk about underperforming offenses like we talked about LSU, maybe we talk quickly about Auburn and what they're struggling with offensively. And it's the Jackson Arnold, Hugh Freeze experiment, maybe if you want to call it that, where they've tried to build an offense around him. And I think everything that they're doing is throwing Jackson Arnold off of what he can do. They're throwing his whole game off. In my mind, they're asking him to be a pocket passer. They're asking him to do too many reps. They're not running with the running backs. The whole offense just feels like it's thrift store thrown together. It's not right.
It's not right. And you had mentioned it, right? Like they threw the ball 33 times. They ran the ball 8 times. Auburn's a top 5 rushing team in the conference to this point, or was. Why are you using Jackson Arnold that much in the air? And why are you not running the ball at Jeremiah Cobb?
Yeah, you got it. You can't be asking him, especially as you watch, 10 attempts, 15 attempts, 20 attempts. Sure, keep it going. You threw the ball 30 plus times and you're not getting anywhere with it. Right. You got great receivers. And I feel like I'm back flipping. I feel like I'm back flipping on something I said a few weeks ago where it's like, you need to throw the ball. You're wasting these receivers' talents. But if it's not working, don't keep throwing the ball and you're trying the same thing over and over and it's not working. Get the running backs involved. It's a 1-score game. You had a great defensive play to put you within 1 score on the interception off of the tipped pass. You're now in a great spot. It's just this Auburn offense is bad. Same thing with the questionability around quarterback for LSU. I don't know if it's time to maybe make some sort of adjustments to someone who can maybe throw the ball better. If you want to be a better throwing team, then maybe you put a better throwing quarterback back there.
And I don't see why you wouldn't, right? You brought in the transfer quarterback from Stanford. You obviously brought in 4-star, 5-star Deuce Knight. Like you opened the season with an open competition, and Jackson Arnold, like realistically had to transfer because he was going to lose his job at Oklahoma. So it's not any shade. It's just that this was an open competition in my mind. So I don't know where the loyalty comes from. This is the first time in Auburn history they've started 3 straight years in the SEC 0-2. Like something has to change for what this program can be and what we saw on the field. I mean, the highlights is the defense looked good. I mean, they gave up a good amount on the ground rushing wise, but when you're on the field that long, you're bound to give up yards. But the defense, I mean, they held this A&M team to their lowest point total all season.
And I'm going to give Auburn defense credit for that, not knock Texas A&M in any way. Right. I think that Texas A&M did the best that they could against a really good Auburn defense that's been good all year. They were great against Oklahoma, just ended up losing that game. They were great here against A&M. It's kind of similar to the Auburn story last year all over again, where the defense is the one keeping them in games. They did great here. I think A&M, you still have a lot of positivity going forward. You won this game. You got out. A win's a win. Marcel Reed still doing his thing. Le'Veon Moss, as always, doing his thing.
Yeah, Le'Veon Moss looks great. 139 yards. I mean, Casey Concepcion, we recognize him on our team of the week. 113 yards. I mean, every time he gets the ball, he's going to make one guy miss. And he had some big conversions, some big plays. A&M sitting at number 6 in the nation. I mean, if you're in College Station, you're loving life right now. Like that's a great spot to be in. Yeah. And so it was definitely a good game for them. The other game that was kind of telling for this week was Tennessee versus Mississippi State. Kind of hidden on SEC Network. I picked Tennessee in that game. I'm calling you out, but you picked Mississippi State. But it was a close game. It is a reasonable pick, right?
I know.
Thoughts on that game and what it means for the season?
I put my money behind it. I took Mississippi State. I was going to stand on it. I put money on it. I was feeling good all game, really. Overtime game, you had some unfortunate turnovers Mississippi State did that led to points for Tennessee. So you never want to see that in a game. especially in a one-score game, to give up multiple, defensive turnovers leading to points. I think that Mississippi State, there's still a lot of positivity going forward for what this team can be. I think that they are going to knock off some teams. It wasn't Tennessee here, but it will be somebody. It might be Georgia. So I do like Mississippi State going forward. It wasn't their best day throwing the ball. It wasn't their best day defensively but it's against the Tennessee team that's been scoring at will this year.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't their best day, of course, throwing the football. But if you really watched the game, it was like, okay, Mississippi State had the lead a couple times, and then they would throw a turnover to Colton Hood, and then Tennessee gets the lead back. They had the lead again, turnover to Joshua Joseph. I think that resulted in a touchdown as well. Even at the end of the game, 4th down, the ball hits the guy in the hands. So really, I would put this loss kind of on the Mississippi State defense that had looked impressive for most of the season. Really won test against Arizona State, but the loss kind of falls on them to me. But I'd like to say more of your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, because they're putting, you take those 14 points off the board, that's 20 to 34. You got Mississippi State winning the game. You don't turn over the ball, and if you turn it over and you stop them, and you at least put your defense out there to try to make the stop. But when they return it, it's like, okay, we're right back out on the field. The defense didn't even get a shot to do anything. I think this Mississippi State's improved all the way around. Tennessee, still a dangerous team in the SEC. They can score. They can score well. Joey Aguilar is that guy for them going forward. They're happy.
Number 1 in the SEC right now for passing yards.
Yeah, and he's done it against decent competition. Sure, we have the UABs, we get the ETSUs, but Syracuse, and this was a Syracuse team that at the time was playing pretty well. Yeah. Not to look at what happened with Duke this week. They've done it against Georgia. So they've been able to score pretty well. Yeah. I like Tennessee. I'm like I said earlier in this, Alabama fan. I'm not necessarily looking forward to having to play this offense that Tennessee has. So this was a good game and telling to know the validity and legitimacy, especially of Mississippi State.
Yeah, definitely a good game. Tells a good story. They got a bye week coming up, and they got Arkansas, and then it's the 3rd week in October, Alabama, and then they got Kentucky and Oklahoma. So, really all eyes point to that Alabama game and then that Oklahoma game. But, they could be going to the Alabama game, 6-1 potentially.
Yeah. Maybe we talk about their next opponent here quickly in an ugly game, Arkansas. They did fire Sam Pittman. That's now official. He is no longer the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Our first firing of the SEC this year.
I didn't think he would be the first one. I thought for sure it was going to be Florida and Billy Napier. I thought absolutely, but you got Sam Pittman, and I feel like the team on the field is the way the team is playing on the field is reflective of the energy around him. If you watch that game, the game wasn't out of hand, and the players were already starting to jog, already starting to walk back to the line. It just felt like the energy was low. I think that the team's, I don't want to say giving up on the season, but the energy's low, especially defensively. So now what do you do going forward? You can't have a team they were 4-point underdogs, lose by 40+ points.
And it's crazy because most games this season they've scored at least 30 points. We were expecting kind of an offensive explosion once again, and it just wasn't the game for them. And there's not really too much to talk about in the game. Like you talked about the energy on the defense, the offense it just wasn't their game. And I don't think Notre Dame's defense is that good. It just looked like they were defeated. And so I guess going forward from here, it's who ultimately takes the job if it's not Bobby Petrino post interim. I think, I threw out the name potentially Kendall Briles. I think he was former OC for them at one point. I think he could be a good hire. Or Jeff Traylor from UTSA. Any guys you think would be good for this role, or how good of a job is Arkansas?
Yeah, I think
it's a great job. You got NIL money, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're looking to grab, like you mentioned, a head coach from a G5 school, or potentially stealing one from a lower tier Big 12 team or something like that, or you're looking for a coordinator from a proven program. I think you're calling on Tulane, you're calling on Memphis, you're trying to snag a head coach out of there. I think that you throw a bag, whatever you can, at Glenn Schumann from Georgia. I think you're trying to make those calls and try to bring somebody in who can improve this team defensively, but also bring energy. I think that this team needs a little bit of energy from someone younger that can compete in this NIL era of recruiting and grabbing players. I don't think that putting Petrino back at the helm long term is the answer to that. Yeah. And I'm curious. I've seen a lot back and forth. If you're an Arkansas fan listening to this at this point, I know T. Will is a polarizing figure. Some people want him fired, and some think that he could be the next guy. I'm more on he's part of the problem. We were talking about this before we started recording, but I know he's very polarizing. So if you're an Arkansas fan listening, let us know what you think regarding him. But what do you think?
I mean, to this point, the defense has been the worst point of the team. And I know there's a lot of people that transferred out last year, a couple guys that went to Michigan. At the end of the day, you got to do your job. And if he's not getting his guys up for his job, it's hard to be like, you should be promoted to head coach or you should continue to be the defensive coordinator. And I know it's not only him, but I just think something has to change there. Petrino could be good because he had some success there. Like, even if just bringing some alumni back, like bring in Darren McFadden and to have some capacity. Like I've seen him tweeting about the team and being disappointed. Like maybe that's what they need. Like you look at Miami, they got Jason Taylor as one of their coaches, former Miami guy. I think having some alumni on the staff that played in an era where they're successful and really care about the program helps alongside having a high energy guy, whether that's a coordinator. I mean, you see it at Arizona State, having a guy who's 32 years old or 33 and Dillingham is going a long way for the resurgence of the program. So I think that's what I would focus on, but it's just really disappointing. Arkansas has a pretty storied history and there's a lot of resources there. You got Tyson money, you got Walmart money. You have a good basketball program. I think this is a really good job in the SEC. Like there's more resources there than Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt is winning games. So I would be curious to know, if you're an Arkansas fan and you listen to our content, like who do you think is the best person for that job? And, do you make any changes with the coordinator position on either side?
Yeah. And you're probably going to be competing with, in my eyes, Kentucky and Florida for head coaching hires at the end of the season.
I think that job is better than Kentucky, though, to me.
I think it's better than Kentucky too. But then, I think it's John Summerall, like I think he has, his ties to Kentucky. So if you're looking at that, like, and you're competing back and forth between the two, like you might lose out to someone who has ties to Kentucky. So keep your options open. I think you lose out to a Florida job depending on who's in that position. But I think you're looking at a different coach. I think you're looking at two different coaches for that. We'll see. I really wanted Arkansas to be good. I think that they're losing right now on fundamentals and energy, and that's not something that is necessarily indicative of the talent of the players. It's just kind of indicative of preparation, the coaching, execution. So I want to see more from Arkansas going forward. I do think that they're a great team. I think that Taylor Green deserves better. So
definitely, I know you texted me about that. He deserves better. We were watching the game earlier that day. He definitely does. I mean, just kind of wrapping it up in the SEC, and we saw a good performance from Missouri, took care of business against UMass as expected. Yep. I think Ahmad Hardy could have made our team of the week again this week, but it was against UMass, 130 rushing yards. 3 tutties, right? South Carolina, Kentucky. I feel like for South Carolina, winning as expected. Their defense is like their offense, we'll say.
Yeah, I like to see Lenore Sellers run the ball a little bit. Like that was good to see. I talked about it in the preview of this game where I was like, I feel like they're holding him back. They're going 30, 50, 60%, whatever. Like they're not fully unleashing the legs. They unleashed the legs in this game. He threw pretty well, not a ton of attempts, but he got his guys involved. And Dravius Jacobs, another great week for him. Kentucky, still problems, all kinds of problems. Seth McGowan, he's holding it together for a team that can't really do much else otherwise. So Kentucky, I think there's a long road ahead for them in the SEC. I think South Carolina's heating back up. They've had that little early season hiccup like last year that now they're going to get over and get right into rhythm. I hope for them,
Hopefully so. The Kentucky road, it looks a little tough, and they're still trying to figure out this Cutter Bully situation. Seth McGowan's good. Like he's definitely solid, but for Kentucky, you got UGA after this. Like I said, I was just in Athens, so I think Georgia fans are looking forward to playing Kentucky next week. Then you got a bye. You got Texas, Tennessee, Auburn. What I think is more interesting for South Carolina, like I feel like this season could be a repeat of last year where they start to heat it up again. Bye week, LSU, they could win the LSU game. They got to go down to Baton Rouge. Then they got Oklahoma, who may or may not have Mateer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the South Carolina LSU game I think is one of the more important SEC games of the season. Kind of along with the Alabama Georgia game, I think this is up here. That's going to be the telling when we get to the end of the season and we're talking about those 8-2, 9-3 SEC teams sitting on the fringe. And I think it's going to be a conversation between the winner of this game being one of those final spots in a playoff. Like truly, this is that fringe game in my mind.
I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that being that fringe game. And I was talking to my girlfriend on the way back from Athens, and I'm like, what does like who is going to be in that top 3 of the SEC that are more or less locked playoff spots. And to be in that top 3, you pretty much have to have 2 or less losses, 3 depending on how the rest of the country looks. But having 2 losses really changes things, because there's going to be kind of a traffic jam at the top of the SEC with teams with 2 losses, because a lot of good teams are playing each other.
Yeah, I think you see that round robin. But I mean, we got Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. Those are my 3. Early call. We don't need to go there yet. We'll do that once we start getting more rankings coming out and who we think is going to make it. But last game here, Vanderbilt did what they need to do. They play Alabama next week. We've seen what Alabama does against Vanderbilt in games after beating Georgia. We saw it last year. The energy was high. You got to play a Vanderbilt team. Right now, Vanderbilt's hot, 5-0. They're probably 6 touchdowns last week. They're doing their thing. They have the archetype to beat Alabama, a running quarterback, a little bit shifty, tricky plays, good tight end, great receivers, that have kind of formed a good unit that have kept year over year. Vanderbilt looks good in this game. I'm excited for them next week.
Vanderbilt's what's good about college football. When you're able to retain your players, you're able to dominate. I mean, Junior Sherrill, 3 touchdowns. We talked about on the team of the week, or you talked about on the team of the week. They got a good team. Game day's going there for a reason. They could very well upset Alabama. I know that wouldn't make Hunter happy. But it's gonna be a good game, and I think you had put together the odds for making the playoffs and winning the SEC, and their odds are going up. Yeah, they're definitely going up. I mean, whether that's Vegas trying to get people to spend some money, or it's really people are actually projecting it, but this offense looks really good. Giving up 35 points to Utah State doesn't look good, and that's where I think Ty Simpson can kind of go crazy against them potentially. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Texas A&M, similar story with Utah State. So I'm going to give Vanderbilt a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there, but I do think that Ty Simpson offers so much more to that. We're going to preview that game. So, if you're listening to this now, depending on when, we're going to be posting our previews for this week, talking about, all the games next week, Georgia, Kentucky. We're going to be talking about Florida, Texas next week, Alabama, Vanderbilt. So stick around for that. Any other thoughts this week from SEC play before we get out of here?
I mean, I think the AP poll got it right. I think Ole Miss looks like the best team in the conference. I would probably put A&M above Oklahoma to this point, just given the health of the quarterback and what that might mean, and who A&M has beaten. And I think that Missouri deserves a little more respect. But overall, the SEC is starting to shape form. I think that the teams we expected to be good look good. The teams that we did not expect to be not as good that are good are interesting. Mississippi State, one of them. LSU is the wild card to me. I just don't know what to expect there. Well, thank you again for tuning in. This is our recap. It was a great week of college football. Week 5 was one of the best, and Oregon, Penn State was good. All the games are good. If you like content like this, please like, follow, subscribe, and as always, I'm Randall Ledet Jr. We got Hunter Zeisman, and this is a new SEC podcast.